I did this word 3 times. Oh, y'all, I'm tired. Okay, so a lot of people believe that the promised land is a state outside of yourself, but the promised land is a state within yourself. It's a state of peace, tranquility, and rest that you have acquired through seeds of faith in the times of travail and tribulation. It's the state that you have cultivated when you were in your wilderness season. So you come out of Egypt, amen. You come out of Egypt, which is your state of survival. Egypt is a state of survival mode. So you come out of Egypt, you go through your wilderness, which is your transition. That's the rewiring and recoding of your nervous system. You get to meet Abba again. You get to learn what rest is, right? We're gonna get into all this, and you come into this state of rest. Promised land is the regulation of your nervous system. So not leaning on your job, not leaning on everything else outside of yourself, but really internally changing the frequency within that God has wanted you to be in since the Garden of Eden. So the Garden of Eden is the place of rest that He wants us to return to that place, right? And Egypt is when you were like under harsh conditioning. You really don't know who you are. You are a slave to the system. And then in the wilderness, Abba says, let my people go so you can come worship me in the wilderness. The wilderness is where you go through that transitional phase of the rewiring, the recoding of the brain. You learn how to come out of that survival mode. Okay, so we're gonna get into. Okay, so the chemical realignment, right? When we experience deep spiritual connection, peace, or release of long-held trauma, our brain chemistry will literally realign. So from stress to peace. Under chronic stress, the brain is flooded with cortisol and adrenaline, which could damage tissues and exhaust the nervous system over time, right? So the restoration is when we shift into a state of safety, trust, and connection. Aligning with the Father, the brain releases oxytocin, the connection hormone, and serotonin, the mood stabilizer. This chemical shift signals to the rest of the body that it is safe to heal, lowering systemic inflammation and initiating cellular repair. So your body goes through a full-blown restoration and realignment when you get when you start depending on the Father, when you start learning who the Father is, you come into this place of peace and trust. That's what's happening. Okay, so the brain is constantly rewiring itself based on our thoughts, beliefs, and experiences. This is called neuroplasticity. What fires together, wires together. Every time you shift your focus from fear or survival toward peace, trust, and spiritual safety, you physically rebuild the neural pathways in your brain. So old toxic pathways, right, are pruned. That's why you go through your pruning and refining in the wilderness, so Abba can take all that stuff off of you. Okay. Thinking are pruned away like dead branches, while new healthy pathways are chemically built and reinforced, so you learn to trust the Father. This is called biological restoration.